Hi everyone, I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas / Happy Holidays. So in this video I'm going to explain how you can tell if your chain is sharp. I get asked a lot of questions on how do I know if my chain is sharp, how do I know if it's dull. There's some very easy telltale signs that shows if it's gone south or not. So I'm going to be using an Oregon Speed Cut Nano bought from Guilty of Treason store, Sappy Supplies. It's a 043 14 inches for my climbing saws, but this is the kind of chain you'd see on your basic homeowner saw. So this is the one I'm going to demonstrate. It's really easy to look. Number one, if you're getting dust instead of saw chips, your chain is dull. No matter what you're cutting, you should be getting some sort of a chip instead of just poof dust. So 99.9% of the time, it all starts with the chain. Something's wrong with the chain. It's really easy to get debris in the bark. You're cutting firewood, you hit the dirt. There's all kinds of things that'll dull your chain. So some guys are like, oh, it's probably the bar, it's your oiler. More than likely, your chain is dull. You get these comments, I got a brand new saw and I've gone through 3 chains already in the last 5 hours. What's going on? You're hitting the dirt. So, I will show you what to look for on your chain if you're not quite certain. Let's get into it. Alright, I'm using the black backdrop of my dump trailer. So you'll be able to see my reflection a little bit, but let's try and focus on the chain. So, say your chain is still on the saw. You're going to want to inspect it. You want to look really closely at each tooth. And what you're looking for is the working edge. This part right up here, is it in good working order? Because this right here is what is cutting the wood first. And as we inspect the chain, we'll be able to see if there's something wrong. And here we have a perfect candidate. You can see that working corner. I'm going to try and hold it still. This is really kind of hard. It's really zoomed in. It's beveled over. So, like if I were to run it on my thumbnail, it's just sliding right off. There's nothing that's grabbing because that working tip, now there can be a burr on it. You'd be like, oh, I see your thumbnail, but it's burred over. That's not going to cut well. You'll get some dust off of it, but you're not getting chips. We're here for a sharp chain, not a so-so. It'll get the job done if you push hard enough and for long enough. With a dull chain, if you're cutting with a dull chain, it's going to tension your chain to where it gets excessively tight and you're going to see your bar turning purple. All kinds of stuff's going to happen. You're killing your saw if you run a dull chain. Because what it's doing is you're putting too much tension on it. The clutch is going to burn out. It's bad all the way around. Every aspect. Your bar is going to get detempered. It's going to turn purple and blue. So, that was a bad tooth. That's your cause right there. Now, we're not going to talk about rakers on this. There's going to be you guys, oh, your rakers are too tall for this chain. No, this is a tuned chain. This chain's set up. It did hit some debris in the bark when I was cutting with it last. Demonstration chain. Oh, and I apologize for my stuffy nose. It's been a little cold out. So here, oh, I got it dirty. This is a sharp tooth. Well, let me get that out of there. This is annoying me. I gotta get the dirt off it. Okay, clean the tooth up. Here we have a sharp tooth. As you can see, when I run my thumbnail over it, let's see if I can get that better. It pulls fiber off. It hooks right into the fingernail and it starts wanting to take away material. Now, if you hold these two teeth side by side, now take note that that's thumbnail on the left-hand tooth, but the right-hand tooth, you can see that working corner is all beat up. That's a dull tooth. This is what you're looking for. So if you take a close examination of your chain and you're running it along your bar, and you're looking at the teeth and you see a bunch of them that are bent over on the corner like that, your chain's dull. If I hit the dirt one time while cutting, or if I cut through dirt in the bark, I will switch chains. I carry a pack of like 4 or 5 chains with me whenever I'm out cutting timber. I don't sit there and sharpen, I just swap because I'm running the square ground chain. But your homeowner or your firewood cutter, you're going to have a round ground chain that you'll file. So you're looking for them beat up corners, and if you're cutting on the ground, you're going to hit the dirt, you're going to hit rocks and debris in that bark, and you're going to dull your chain a lot faster. I always say if you can keep your log off the ground, the better off your chain's going to be. So there's the number one reason of why you're getting powder instead of chips. So inspect your corners, file it in. Now you also got to be careful when I file a tooth. Let's get back to that link right here. I filed this one out. If you're filing and your file size is wrong, it's too small or whatever, you're going to be filing down here and you're going to miss this working corner right up here. Let's see if I got something that can point that out a bit better. Working corner right here. So if you filed your tooth and you've gotten down here, you examine your tooth and you'll see if there's any black left up here, your file hasn't nicked in and made fresh scrape out of the steel. So that's why in every tooth that I sharpen on the grinder or by hand is I run my fingernail on it to see if it bites into the nail or just slides right off. You know, slides off versus biting into it. You'll feel the resistance. You run your fingernail across your teeth, you'll know what I'm talking about. So when your thumbnail or your fingernail grabs that working corner, you can do it like this and you're like, oh, it's sharp, but your soft tissue is folding underneath and it'll feel sharp. If you run your nail over it, that's the dead for certain way to know if you got a sharp chain or not. If it slides right off, you're dull. If you're starting to, scrape out itty bitty shavings of your fingernail, like you can see on the tooth right there, that's my fingernail, you've got a sharp chain. And then if you really want to get into it, you really always want to make sure that your rakers are inset with your sharpened tooth. There's this whole count your strokes per tooth thing and make every tooth the same. Nah, don't worry about it. It's kind of hogwash. I've got chains that teeth are most of the way down and some are brand new and they cut fine. But what I do is the raker is adjusted to the tooth itself. So if you really want to get fine detail, you sharpen your chain, you put your raker gauge on it, and you file your raker down. But what that's going to do is on like Oregon chains that are a little softer, is you're going to bevel this working tip over again. From the steel of the raker gauge, it's going to bevel that down ever so slightly and you're going to have a dull chain. It's not going to be dull, it'll cut, but if you wanted the sharpest chain ever, you go over it again after your rakers are set and just get one fine swipe on it to get that bevel back up on the working point. Then you have your ultimate sharp chain. But that's really fine detail. A lot of people aren't going to want to go that far into it, but you want to match your rakers to the tooth. And you want to make sure that that working corner is a razor blade, because if it's not, you're going to get powder instead of saw chips. You want the chips, not the dust. Hope this helped. Have a good one.